Hi, let's try this again. I had my daggone live set to myself because I was fooling around with something earlier, and I forgot to change it to public. So, silly me. That's what happens. Hi, Elizabeth. Thanks for sticking around. I was just saying I had my settings on only me because I was doing something silly earlier, and I didn't want anybody else to see it. So I was just having a little conversation with myself. At least I know I had a captive audience. Hey, Marty, thanks for hopping on. So that, I was talking to myself about how it's so popular. Most of us make New Year's resolutions, or, we choose our word of the year, we do our vision board, or, whatever you want to call it. I mean, it's just the thing that everybody does. And we have the best of intentions. And a lot of times, hey, Catherine, I hope you're feeling better, honey. We have the best of intentions. We're going to change our life. We're going to, do all these big things. And the sad thing is that statistics show that by January 12th, most people have already broken their resolution or given up on it. January 12th. This day and age, we aren't very long-sighted, huh? Our vision doesn't extend very far. But I think there's some scientific reasons, hey, Katie, why that's true. And I'm going to talk about one that I learned that was life-changing for me, and it didn't have anything to do with New Year's resolutions until after I learned the concept. So, bigger isn't always better, and it can be really hard to manage. So, the best thing to do is to set little tiny goals and then build on those because we want to do things that we're going to ensure our success. That's right, Elizabeth. Well, I'm going to talk about a way that I think you're going to really like, that really, like I said, literally has changed my life. So my coach, John Eric, at Adventure Social, introduced me to a theory called the theory of marginal gains. After my numerous and continual comments that I was behind, I needed to get caught up, I didn't know where we were, this was too much, I needed to figure everything out. And he finally said, Mary, stop. Let me tell you a little bit about what the theory of marginal gains is. It's about making little 1% changes regularly, because we're more likely to be able to make a 1% change. In that case, it was about learning, just pay attention to where you are and do that. And then go back and figure out what you missed. Or just learn one small part of a concept. Learn how to do one thing, whether it's social media, whether it's a class, whether it's learning a language, whether it's learning a new skill, whether it's cleaning out your junk drawer, whatever it is. Just make little 1% changes. And over time, those changes will accrue. In fact, one study has shown that, or I think it's actually just a scientific fact, that if you make a 1% change every single day, it only takes 70 days to reach 100%. Think about that, because day 2 isn't just 1% plus 1%. It's 1% plus a little bit more. So it multiplies, kind of like compound interest. It builds up more and more over time. And what I have found is that by using that theory not only in social media, but in every aspect of my life, that for one thing, the fear of failure isn't so great for me, and that was always a big thing for me. I also find that it's easier for me to just breathe and figure out what's 1%. 10% works too. What's the 1% thing I can do? What can I do to tweak this? What can I do to change this? Maybe instead of clean out your whole closet, just pick one section. I'm going to do all the dresses that are hanging up. I'm just going to go through those, and I'm going to, thin out that area. What am I going to toss? What needs to be repaired? That type of thing. or if you're cleaning, if you're going to do the bathroom or whatever, and I mean, you can do it for anything in your life. And it's a great thing to teach kids too, because, if a kid is in the middle of a room and there are toys everywhere and you say, clean up this mess, they're not going to want to do it. Maybe you can reward them or you can threaten them or whatever. But if you can teach them that if you tackle one thing at a time, like let's tackle the blocks and let's get all those done. And then you can tell them, now let's tackle this. So that they learn that concept at a very young age, and they don't have to wait until they're, adults and have learned to become overwhelmed and to fear failure, so that we don't set goals because we don't want to fail. This was a really practical application that made history. And I just wanted to share it with you to give it some, some credibility, I guess, because there's some real life applications. So in 2002, Dave Brailsford faced a tough job. No British cyclist had ever won the Tour de France, but he was the new general manager and performance director for the team, Great Britain's team called Team Sky. And that's what he was asked to do. He was asked to develop a winning team so that they could finally win the Tour de France. So what he believed is that if they improved every area related to cycling by just 1%, then those small gains would add up. And so he addressed 3 elements, and these are the elements that apply to anything in life: strategy, performance, and continuous improvement. So, I mean, they started out doing, all of the obvious things, like looking at the diet and the eating habits of the cyclists, the tires and, the seat and their training program and all of that stuff. But then he went a lot farther, and they searched for 1% improvements in some other little tiny areas. For instance, figuring out what pillow allowed them to have the best night's sleep. And whenever they traveled, they took that pillow with them so that they could maintain having a good night's sleep using this pillow. And they did all kinds of things like testing the massage gel to massage their muscles after they trained really hard. Teaching them to wash their hands the best way to avoid spreading germs, even things that didn't seem like it directly related to winning a bike race, but even the peripheral factors that could impact their performance negatively or positively. I think that's just brilliant. And if you think about it, we can look at our environment all the time and think of ways that maybe don't directly relate to a goal or a resolution or a dream, but that can ensure that we're going to accomplish what we set out to do just by looking at it, which I think makes perfect sense. So in 2012, Bradley Wiggins became the first British cyclist to win the Tour de France, and then Brailsford coached the British cycling team to the 2012 Olympic Games and dominated the competition by winning 70% of the gold medals. So, that just goes to show you that if you think about things a little bit outside the box, and if you tackle one little element at a time, you can make huge improvements. I mean, they made history just by using that that little rule of just making 1% changes. And I just think that's fascinating. And like I said, it has really worked for me. It's helped me in my goals of, for writing, for growing my, I'd like to have more speaking engagements. I revamped my service of offering personalized poems, but I didn't do that all at once, and I didn't work on the page all at one time, at one spell, and then just pushed it out. I tweaked things. I thought about it. I made little 1% changes and thought about how I was going to roll it out. And with my writing, maybe for me, I like certain pens, because I like to write. I like to journal with a paper journal and a pen. And so if I have pens that I like, I'm more likely to be disciplined about it, because I just like the way it feels to have that pen in my hand, the way the pen rolls across the paper. It's a crazy thing, but it's one of those little 1% things that can make a huge difference. So let's talk about some New Year's resolution kind of things. All right, so say you decide, I'm going to lose weight and I need to eat healthier. So I'm going to stop sugar, carbs, chocolate, everything, just cold turkey. Tomorrow when I wake up, I'm not going to do that. I know for myself that it's not going to work. So for me, what I tried to do and have found some success with here lately is that I cut out like one thing per week or per day. Like if there's certain cookies that we like, I just cut out those cookies. I allow myself to have maybe some other dessert items, but I eventually eliminate all of them. Or I decide I'm going to replace a piece of fruit every time I want a cookie or some ice cream or something like that. And I try to do that type of thing, but I try to do it incrementally. If I want to have piece of chocolate, I go ahead and let myself have it, but one at a time is certainly going to work a lot better for me, Elizabeth. And even to the point of like I'm not going to have a salad every day for lunch, but I might have one 2 days a week, or I might have one a small salad with a small sandwich, and start making those changes incrementally using that 1% rule. Same thing with, exercising. You can start out just doing stretches in the morning just to kind of limber up and, hear everything crack in my case, and let your body know that, okay, we're awake, it's time to start our day. And then, you can move on to progressively to things that are physically a little bit more challenging. Maybe do some yoga. Maybe you could even just start doing actual exercises over time, so that you build up a routine. Saving money, or spending less. You could start a change jar on the counter, and everybody at the end of the day put all your extra change in the jar and use that like for a splurge thing, or to say you only spend your splurge items out of the change jar. So that encourages everyone to, put all their extra money in there. Maybe you can do family movie night or fun night. Yeah, gave up sodas one at a time. Right. And just like, like if you want to quit smoking, it's really hard to do that cold turkey. So maybe you could start out just, cut out like one smoke break during the day. And then, the next week cut out 2. Or, whatever. You just start cutting back gradually until it stops being a habit. Change up the habit of, when you have a cigarette at a certain time every morning. Skip that one and do something else. And then after a while it stops being a habit, so it's easier to keep skipping it. For me, self-care is not a strong area for me. I need to start writing on the calendar, manicure and pedicure every other week. Or whatever you consider, a massage once a month, or, whatever self-care looks like to you. Just add that. And maybe you just do something, more far apart at the beginning, and then put it in. I got all kinds of notifications I forgot to cut off. But gradually add things into your routine as well. Don't just eliminate things. Make new friends. Most towns have an online meetup group. That's right. Lifestyle changes are gradual positive changes. That's exactly right. And they do. They become positive habits. There are all kinds of meetup groups in Richmond. Hey, Ann, thank you. Thank you so much. Where you can find groups that meet up on almost every topic that you could ever imagine. And I scroll through them sometimes just to see. Sometimes I look for opportunities for speaking engagements, or just to see what's going on in the community. If there's, something I want to participate in, everything from hiking to moms groups to, all kinds of crazy things that people like to do. And that's fun, and so why not just pick one of those and try it out one time and just see if you like it. It's a great way to meet some new people and try some new things. You don't have to go out and invest in all kinds of equipment and all that kind of stuff. Just go to one meeting and see if you like it, or, ask around with some of your friends. Maybe they'll invite you to go to one of their sessions. One thing I've started doing last year that I had stopped doing in a long time is going to some networking groups for professional women. And that's been really great. It's a confidence builder, but I also, have met some really great women who, some of whom I've started collaborating with on some things, but also just as a support system. So that's been really good, and I already talked about, organizing, anything like that you do. But it's important to ritualize the new habit. Put it on your calendar. Make a date with yourself. Just so that it becomes a habit that you don't have to stop and think about. And if you mess up, if you forget about it, if you decide, you have to have a couple extra cigarettes, or you have to drink a soda or whatever, you don't have to just throw in the towel and say, okay, that's it. Just start over, start over the next day. It's not the end of the world. You'll get better with practice. Another really important thing is to plan for the discouragement. Like we talked about, if you mess up, or if there are obstacles or distractions. If you go out Friday night with a bunch of your friends and they're all smoking, it's going to be really hard not to smoke. So you need to plan on what you're going to do in that situation. Maybe take Nicorette, maybe drink water instead of slip out for a cigarette. I don't know. You're going to have to figure that out ahead of time so that it's it doesn't catch you off guard, and you're more likely to mess up if you're not prepared. At least I am. And so, think about, how am I going to feel if I do what I said I was going to do? How is that going to make me feel? And then, how am I going to feel if I don't do it? If I let myself down. That brings emotion into it. And if our emotions are in something, we're far more likely to give it the attention that it needs. Yes, practice definitely makes perfect. That's for sure. Yeah, oh, thank you. Yeah, starting over. Every day is a new day. The sun comes up every morning. Whoa, I hope my light doesn't go out there. Every day is a chance for something new. Also, visualize what the future is going to look like when you've succeeded. I'm a big believer that thoughts become things, and I've really practiced that in the last year or so, and I found it to be so true. Hey, Amber. Hey, Jean. Thanks for hopping on. Visualize what your life is going to look like after you succeed. In either giving up something, in adding something, in changing something up. Visualize the best case scenario. And think about that. Spend a lot of time thinking about that. That's another way, if you start to get discouraged, or if you do feel like you're going to slip up, just go back to that vision that you have in your mind of what your life can look like when you succeed. And that's also going to help you overcome the discouragement. positive self-talk. Like I said, thoughts become things. We need to be our biggest cheerleader. Not beat ourselves up, but we need to continually tell ourselves, I know you can do this. I know you can do this. I believe in myself. I can make this happen. That's really super important, to not be down on yourself, but to be your biggest cheerleader. And it's also, it's important to find a small group of, accountability partners, a team of friends, not friends who are going to go, oh, that's okay, or, oh, don't worry about it, or, oh, you don't need to do that. Because one thing that could happen that could sabotage you, and not in a, friends don't mean to do that. They don't mean to slip us up, but it's uncomfortable. If we make a change that other people aren't changing, especially if it's something, that's for the good, it can make them uncomfortable because maybe they feel bad that they're not doing that. Or maybe they just don't want to change and they're threatened by you deciding to make a change. So I think it's important to have that conversation with the people in your life and say, look, I'm not telling you this is what you need to do, but this is what I've decided to do, and I would really appreciate your support. And these are the ways that you can support me. That way, it's not uncomfortable, it doesn't get weird when things happen. That's right. We need to be sure that we surround ourselves with friends who want the best for us and who respect us enough to respect our boundaries, but also to call us out when we're not doing what we said we were going to do. And that also increases our chance of success for ourselves. But it also, you could positively influence some of your friends too. When they start to see you succeeding, they may want to jump on the bandwagon too. And that makes it even better because then there's a whole group of you that are, working toward a common goal. So I kind of rushed through a little bit because I had a coughing attack right before I went on, and I never know how long I'm going to go without having one. So I rushed through a little bit, but I wanted to share those things with you. I've been thinking about those a lot, and we talked about them a little bit in some of the social media coaching that we participated in this weekend. And so it reminded me of how important that concept is and of how life-changing it was for me, and how I just so strongly recommend it to my friends when they're getting ready to make some changes in their lives. It really does work, and you can read up on it online if you want to get some more details. It's called I think it's the Theory of Marginal Gains or Law of Marginal Gains, but it's a real thing, and it really works. So, and also I just want to mention, for those of you who are in the Richmond area, one of those great women that I met last year from doing something new, and I'm starting to collaborate on some things with Andrea Rose Butler, and I are co-hosting a workshop February 23rd here in Richmond. It's action, accountability, and achievement, and we're going to talk about that while we work on vision boards. So I'm super excited about that. And, I'd love if you're in town, if you want to get more information about it, I'll drop a link to register for that to get more information. Oh, thank you. I'm glad you caught me live too. I love to have folks hop on and contribute to the conversation. It makes it more interesting for everybody. So anyway, that's February 23rd from 11 to 2 here in Richmond, if you would like to attend that. Thank you so much for hopping on tonight. I really appreciate it. And I appreciate your comments and input. Like I said, it always makes it more interesting. So I'm going to sign off. I hope you all have a great Monday night and a great week. And I will see you next Monday. Bye-bye.